95% of my crypto is on hardware wallets, so I do self-custody and manage myself. But not everybody wants to be their own bank, and that's essentially what crypto is. It's replacing banking. So you can be your own bank, and it's also, you know, allowing other people who don't have access to that traditional financial system to enter the space. And ETFs are just going to be an ease of use and a way for people to come in very conveniently and also very cheaply. Those Bitcoin ATMs charging you like 20% or something like that just to do a purchase. So it's not very realistic. And, it's kind of funny because Bitcoin was created to kind of down with the banks type of mentality. And then once all of the traditional finance world started to embrace it, all the Bitcoin maxis were cheering for it when essentially they were saying it was going to be the opposite. So it's a little bit of a catch-22, and it's a little strange when you think about it. But I'm truly a believer that those that are working with the system and the governments around the world are going to be the ones that reap the benefits, and utility will win the day. So just because Bitcoin was first doesn't mean it's going to be last. Just because dial-up internet was first doesn't mean dial-up internet was the one that, we didn't just stop innovating at dial-up internet, right? We ran it through the phone system, and then eventually we created broadband internet and DSL and now fiber optics, right? So information is moving at the speed of light. Now we're transitioning to the monetization of that, where we're talking about money moving at the speed of light, where we can send money around the world just as quickly as we can in email. And with that being said, Bitcoin isn't going to be the only game in town when it comes to ETFs. You're going to see baskets. You're going to see Litecoin. There's talks about that happening. Why not? It's a fork of Bitcoin. So essentially, it's basically the same thing.
Hi, everyone. So today we have an esteemed guest. Rod, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Rod Murray. I'm the founder of POW Group, so Pursuit of Wealth. Essentially, we focus primarily on MJ stocks, crypto assets. We also focus on a lot of the technicals and also interviews. That's something that we've been incorporating a lot into the channel. But I come from a technical background. I used to work in graphic design. I used to do website development, app development. Wasn't a whole lot of work in that, so I transitioned over to the financial services industry. I actually worked for Invesco, which is the company behind the QQQ Trust. And I worked for them for a few years. I almost become a financial advisor myself, but I found it was stressful enough managing other people's money. It was stressful enough only managing my own money, let alone managing others' money. So I kiboshed that. I didn't want to pursue that. I found that quite stressful. So I'd rather teach people how to learn to manage their own money. And I really enjoy helping people and meeting people. So it was a great fit. And then I also worked for over 12 years in the managed services industry in IT. So I'm very strong in technicals. I got introduced into the financial realm by my brother, actually, because I was looking for work and there wasn't a whole lot of jobs in my area. That's how I stumbled into Invesco and investing. But I've been investing now for over 18 years. And I'm 34 now. And yeah, I've made tons of investments in real estate. I've actually bought 5 condos in the last couple of years, and I sold a couple of houses back in the boom in 2021. So I've got my hands in quite a few different things. But essentially, with POW Group, we're a community of about 50 private members, and then we also have YouTube channel, X, a bunch of different social media accounts. So we've got a bit of following of around 25,000 people. So that's a little bit about me and POW Group and where I came from.
Perfect. So just to understand more, because I see like you have a lot of experience in traditional markets, or traditional assets. So how do you see crypto fitting into this space on a macro level?
In traditional finance, you mean?
Yeah, like for example, you already have some experience or like a lot of experience in stocks and maybe like some other assets, like for example, as you mentioned, real estate. So like, how do you see crypto in terms of like as an investment in relation to these other assets?
Okay, gotcha. Well, I definitely believe that, if you look at blockchain, the underlying technology, it's basically just cryptography. It's basically just, computer code. We're relying on mathematics. We're not relying on ledgers and, Excel sheets and human errors and things like that. So essentially, if it's a city, a municipality, they're looking at all these land titles, they're trying to manage all these land titles. Well, eventually you'll be able to put those on, the blockchain. It'll be an immutable ledger. You'll be able to verify everything that way. There's no, human error. There's no greed. Eventually, you'll be able to tokenize assets as well. There was talks about, major league, like sports leagues and things like that, sports teams, even the buildings, the arenas, they talk about, tokenizing those assets. So essentially you'll be able to have fractionalized ownership in those assets. So imagine being able to purchase, you know, 0.001% of, Bell Arena or, T-Mobile Arena or something like that, right? Especially with the rising housing costs, eventually fractional ownership is going to be very, very appealing. And eventually you're already seeing it in stocks. You're going to see fractionalization of stocks. You'll be able to own, zero point 0.01 of Tesla if you want, right? Similar to Bitcoin and the Satoshis, XRP, they have drops. So, you're going to be able to basically tokenize every single thing in the world, right? It's the tokenization of assets, even blockchain, is going to help facilitate that. But BlackRock has said they believe in the tokenization of everything. Eventually, you'll have tokenized gold, right? What's the problem with gold? It's heavy, it's clunky, it's hard to move. So if you could tokenize gold, put it on a ledger on a blockchain, have that value represented, it's really a game changer. And then, in terms of where we can go from here, the sky's the limit. We're talking about all the money. We're talking about global remittances. You send money, it can take sometimes 5 to 7 business days. Sometimes the money gets lost. The fees are exuberant. If you're somebody who's low income or struggling, or if you have family in a third world country and they're taking 5, 10+% of your money that you so need and they so need desperately, that's not a solution for the future. And, what is it? Over 2 billion people in the world are unbanked or underbanked, which means that most people have a cell phone. If you can just have a digital wallet, that's going to be financial inclusion. People are going to live better lives. People are going to be able to participate in the traditional finance and the traditional system. But not only that, it's not just good for the people, it's good for the corporations, which we know if it's good for corporations, it's probably going to happen. Because if they can bring those 2 billion people that are underbanked or unbanked into the new world financial system, they'll be able to charge them fees, even if it's way lower fees, maybe 0.1% or 1%, 2%. It's not going to be that crazy 5, 10% that we're seeing now in Western Union and global remittances and whatnot through the Swiss system. But eventually they'll be able to sell them goods and services. They'll be able to charge them fees for remittance fees and transfer fees. And it's going to be a lot less, it's going to be a fraction of what the fees are now, but these big corporations stand to benefit as well. So that's basically, in a nutshell. I could go on that probably for about an hour, so I'll digress there. But
So
yeah,
you see
yeah,
the
there's,
ETFs, you see the
it's
ETFs
exciting when
like
you really
fitting
think
into
about
this
it.
picture, like for example, the Bitcoin ETFs.
What's that? Sorry?
So do you see the ETFs fitting into this,
The
like,
ETFs, is that what you
yeah,
said?
yeah, like for example, the crypto ETFs, like the Bitcoin that we had recently.
Yeah,
So yeah, so
absolutely. ETFs are a big thing because the problem with Bitcoin and crypto, I think, is the difficult, entry barrier of entry, right? So if it's, a baby boomer, if it's somebody who's a little bit elderly, I couldn't convince my dad or my mom to download a digital wallet. I couldn't convince them to, sign up for an exchange like Coinbase. I don't think they would ever do it. But I know my dad has RBC. I know he has a bank, right? Whether it be in the States or Canada. Canada has a Bitcoin ETF as well. So essentially, he can just go into his regular account, right, in his investment account, direct investing with RBC, and he can select that Bitcoin ETF and buy it. And he doesn't have to change money. He doesn't have to trust anybody else. He doesn't have to manage his money his own. Like I do self custody. I have hardware wallets. Probably like 95% of my crypto is on hardware wallets. So I do self custody and manage myself. But not everybody wants to be their own bank. And that's essentially what crypto is. It's replacing banking. So you can be your own bank. And it's also, allowing other people who don't have access to that traditional financial system to enter the space. And ETFs are just going to be an ease of use and a way for people to come in very conveniently and also very cheaply. Those Bitcoin ATMs charging you like 20% or something like that just to do a purchase. So it's not very realistic. And it's kind of funny because Bitcoin was created to kind of down with the banks type of mentality. And then once all of the traditional finance world started to embrace it, all the Bitcoin maxis were cheering for it when essentially they were saying it was going to be the opposite. So it's a little bit of a catch-22, and it's a little strange when you think about it. But I'm truly a believer that those that are working with the system and the governments around the world are going to be the ones that reap the benefits, and utility will win the day. So just because Bitcoin was first doesn't mean it's going to be last. Just because dial-up internet was first doesn't mean dial-up internet was the one that, we didn't just stop innovating at dial-up internet, right? We ran it through the phone system, and then eventually we created broadband internet and DSL and now fiber optics, right? So information is moving at the speed of light. Now we're transitioning to the monetization of that, where we're talking about money moving at the speed of light, where we can send money around the world just as quickly as we can in email. And with that being said, Bitcoin isn't going to be the only game in town when it comes to ETFs. You're going to see baskets. You're going to see Litecoin. There's talks about that happening. Why not? It's a fork of Bitcoin. So essentially, it's basically the same thing. And then there's talks about Ethereum ETF. I don't know if that's going to go through because initially the SEC, Bill Hinman and Jay Clayton, who, there's some controversy there of whether or not their ethics were sound. But, essentially there's the thinking that because Ethereum is now proof of stake, you're relying on the efforts of others to give you profits, right? So that in and of itself could deem it a security. And even if I don't think in and of itself is a security, Ethereum or anything really. But at the end of the day, the argument has changed. Before they were talking about, the consensus mechanism, right? So proof of work. Whereas now it's proof of stake, whereas you're getting, relying on the efforts of others, you're getting rewards from the network for staking. So that to me, that very well could be a security, and they might crack down on them. And there was a recent news article that they're actually looking into companies and getting information, and they could potentially bring a lawsuit against Ethereum. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not an ETF gets approved there for Ethereum. But I think an XRP ETF, I think there's going to be a Litecoin. There'll be like a top 5, top 10, similar to the S&P 500, where we have a basket of them. And that's only going to be great because what have all these institutions, what did you do when you first found Bitcoin? Oh, this Bitcoin's pretty awesome. What else is there, right? So you start branching off, looking at other coins, and the ones in the top 10, have always been Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. So eventually these black rocks, right, they're going to start to pivot and transition. And Bitcoin, to be frank, is the least technologically advanced crypto on the planet. So they're going to look at different use cases, right? Bitcoin's digital gold, as they say. It was originally a peer-to-peer cash system. It failed as that. Now they say it's digital gold, but that just means that it's deflationary. XRP is deflationary. We're looking at the changes in Ethereum, which are deflationary. So, Bitcoin isn't the only game in town, right? So these companies are going to look at other ETFs, and they're going to make a ton of money off these other ETFs
Yeah,
as
and to
well.
me,
So
the
it's all
most
about money
telling,
at the end of the day.
I think you already referred to this in some of your videos. Basically, the most telling is the actual, like the Bitcoin maximalists. They will always tell you like to go back to the market, or like this is the market is favoring Bitcoin. But actually, if you look at the dominance, it's reducing, diminishing returns, right? Like it's so.
This episode is sponsored by DegreeSign.
CoinExams platform was purpose-built by DegreeSign to be one of the best-performing platforms in the crypto space.
DegreeSign is an agency developing web products with a long experience of building products from scratch for maximum performance and stability.
Start today. Just email make@degreesign.com.
The market is already much bigger than Bitcoin at the moment. And
Yeah, law of diminishing returns.
yeah, and if you also look,
Yeah, I'm looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart, and I think that we're going to be reaching a peak very soon. I think we're going to see a peak on Bitcoin dominance very soon. We're starting to see a little bit of bearish divergence with regards to that, and I think over the next few months, Bitcoin more than likely will top out. I think with the halving coming up here in less than 30 days, that's more than likely going to be a sell the news event. Typically, it was a buy the news. It was a major run after, but because everybody's expecting it, because it's that 4-year cycle, because every single time now, it seems like every single time we have a halving, we run after. So I'm really of the camp of thinking we're going to see a shift now with, especially with rate cuts coming soon. I think, typically after they cut rates, start to turn dovish, and, the stock market's at an all-time high. Generally, it's usually about 6 to 12 months after that where we start to plummet and enter a bear market and serious downward pressure. And when you think about it, it makes sense, because I was at a conference one time, Warren's, value investing, Warren Buffett style type of conference. And, they say it takes on average whales 6 months to get in and out of positions and switch from net long to net short. So if they cut rates and it takes 6 to 12 months for the market to really start to trend down, that just means it's the whales taking 6 or so months to switch from net long to net short. And, it's funny how all this stuff just kind of aligns perfectly. It's almost like there's a puppet master pulling the puppet strings, but 100%, in my opinion, the markets are rigged, right? We all know this. And I'm looking at this as a multi-year bear market that we could potentially see. And we have all the signs of topping, right? The market, broader market, S&P 500 all-time highs, right? We're probably going to enter a point over the next few months where we see a euphoric blow off top, and then, we'll see a dead cat bounce. We'll see, a lower high, and then probably a confirmed monthly downtrend on a lot of our equities and a lot of our cryptos. But I still think we have about 6 to 12 months worth of runway left. It's an election year. There's talks about a cyber attack coming on the economy in the U.S. and around the world as well, which is pretty scary when you think about it. Even the WEF is, issued warnings about it. So, you can't live
It's
in
like
fear,
when
but
you issue
you
a
got to
warning,
you
it's
got to
almost
prepare
like
for all scenarios, right?
it's like almost it's pretty suspicious. But yeah, so I think looking at the market, the crypto market from also on the macro level, do you think that, for example, like how much the market cap for the whole can we reach, like for example, 8 trillions in this cycle, or is not possible?
This cycle, what is it now? Just under 3 trillion. I think somewhere around 5 to 10 trillion is probably an area to target here this cycle. We still have really yet to see full-fledged alt season, which I think could transpire. Like I said, between now, we're already seeing alt season really start to pick up, right? Where we're seeing Solana go from $8 to like $200, right? And then we're seeing crazy other projects start to rotate and see their gains and whatnot. So it's happening just by a coin per coin basis. But eventually we're going to get to that point where everything's going to be soaring and the market dominance is just going to be dropping on the Bitcoin dominance is going to be dropping, and you're going to see full blown alt season over the next, be 3 to 6 months, I think is when it's really going to start to ramp up. And then in that altcoin phase, I think, we could potentially see somewhere between 5 and 10 trillion. I wouldn't expect much more than that this cycle. But ultimately, this industry is probably going to go to 100 trillion plus market cap. I think that might be, 5 to 10 years out, but I think 5 to 10 trillion this market cycle is very doable. There's also a weekly bull flag right now on Bitcoin. It has yet to confirm. We need to break the all-time high there at like 73,700 or whatever it is. But if we break 73,700, we call it 74,000. If we get over 74,000, then weekly bull flag confirmed, and there's actually a target of over 100K on that weekly bull flag. So I'm thinking, the top on Bitcoin is probably going to be somewhere around that 80 to 100K. Maybe we get a slight, bit above 100K. The media is going to say we're going to 200K this cycle, 250K, and that's probably going to be our top. Then we'll see money really start to rotate at Bitcoin into the alt season, full-fledged alt season, and then maybe into the end of 2025 or 2024, beginning of 2025, maybe some spillage into there. And then I think that's when the top is going to be in, and we're probably going to enter a multi-year bear market on crypto. But I think, yeah, to answer your question, 5 to 10 trillion, I would go with this cycle.
So do you think that, for example, the idea about like Bitcoin 10xing like what it did in previous cycles is not possible, or like it's far-fetched?
I don't subscribe to that. No, I mean, eventually it could, but you really have to think, like, to be fully transparent, I don't own any Bitcoin anymore. Like, I bought it in 2017 for like $3,000. I, sold it a few times, rebought it a few times. I made money. I sold it around 40K in 2021. I didn't hold until 73K. I could have made a lot more money, almost more double, almost another double, 100% gain. But at the end of the day, you can't shoot yourself in the foot. You can't beat yourself up, over taking gains, right? So if there's profits on the table, if you don't take it, nothing's realized until you take it, until you sell, until you lock it in. And, at this point, I'm pretty much done with Bitcoin. Even if Bitcoin goes from current price to that weekly bull flag target of around 113,000, I think it is, that's only like 54% of upside from the all-time high. So that means if you invested $1,000, you're only going to get 54% on that. So you're only going to get, $500, right? So I don't think, maybe it could go 10x, maybe it could go to 200K this cycle, 250K plus. I doubt it. I really think it's probably like less than a 10% chance that it does it this cycle, just based on everything that I'm seeing. But as of right now, I wouldn't bank on 10x. And I think there's better plays out there right now. And the risk is to the downside, right? If you're trying to squeeze out another 50% or 100%, well, this thing could drop 60 to 80%, no problem, right? So, you have to really weigh your risk. And is it worth it, right? And how much money are you going to put in, right? Are you putting $1,000 in? You putting $10,000 in? You put $1 million, right? You put $1 million in, you get 50% return. You're probably pretty happy. But also, if you put $1 million in and it drops 50%, you're going to be super, super angry. So, I just think there's a lot of other opportunities out there. And then also, I always use this analogy, right? It's like, imagine investing in Apple, but we don't know who created it. It was just an anonymous founder who created it. We don't know who it is. We don't know who the CEO is or the founder of the company. Like it's almost silly when you think about it. And people are putting their life savings into Bitcoin and some of these other coins that haven't yet got legal clarity. And you just there's always that cloud of worry hanging over your head. Like, what if it was North Korea that created Bitcoin? What if it was Russia? What if it, we just don't know. I think it was probably the US government and a collaboration of another government, maybe, somewhere in Europe. But, at the end of the day, we don't know. There's even footage of Homeland Security saying they met with the 4 Satoshis. So they said it's a group of 4 people. And then now they're silent. They don't talk about it. Right. So I for one, I got in, I made my money, I got out, but I can't park a lot of my money, and I'm not going to put I'm not going to buy Bitcoin unless it's a sizable amount, because, it's just not worth putting $1,000 in to get, 100% return. Like, I'm not here for taco gains. Right. So, I would just caution people. I'm not telling you to buy, sell, or hold. Obviously it's not financial advice. Do your own research. But, at the end of the day, I find it very troubling that we still don't know who created Bitcoin, and they can always use that at any point to crash the market, or, however they want to spin it, whether it be positive or negative. And then Ethereum now being deemed a potential security by the SEC, it's just not a good look, right? So I'm very picky right now with regards to where I park my money. And same thing with stocks, right? Like, I see people all the time just buying a stock, and I ask them why. And my partner even did it. It's like, why did you buy that stock? And it's like, oh, it was, it was pumped on Twitter and on X, and people were talking about it, and I'm like, well, that's probably not a good enough reason to buy something, right? So you really have to do your due diligence and believe in something and buy it because you believe in it, not because of what somebody else says, right?
Sounds perfect. Thanks for this conclusion. So how did like people get in touch with you, or how do you like I know you have the YouTube channel. Is there any other
Yep.
channels that you want to shout out?
Absolutely. You can just go to YouTube, type in POW Group, POW Group. It stands for Pursuit of Wealth Group. You can go to X, it's at Group POW, and then pretty much all socials, POW Group, Pursuit of Wealth, powgroup.ca, so powgroup.ca. Also, pursuitofwealthgroup.com will take you there. And info@pursuitofwealthgroup.com. There's also a contact us on my website, so you can go there. Emails on the website as well. So yeah, I really appreciate your time today, and it was a great conversation. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it was amazing. And yeah, hopefully you have a nice day. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much. Take care.